Okay, so I am old enough to have done this cycle multiple times. I don't think that victims of abuse recognize just how many abusers are in victim spaces, learning victim resources, and then deploying it against the victims. It is many. It is many. I have been running Abuse Interrupted, the subreddit, for a little over 14 years at this point. And the number of abusers who end up in the subreddit is an appalling number. Some of them are 100% aware that they are abusive. They've usually just had some kind of an issue where the victim is said, "Oh, you're an abuser," and they go, "Oh," they have their like, I don't want to say fake catharsis moment, because it may not be fake, but like you haven't changed, and you may go back to default settings. Like you really have to work very intentionally over a long period of time to really flip the switch on your abusive like internal wiring and template. But often it is because they are they've had their like eureka moment, and they're like, oh, I want to take accountability, and but essentially they're looking for emotional supply. They want a bunch of victims to be like, oh no, oh no, it's so great that you're changing, and I wish my abuser would change. And so they're karma farming for the emotional supply of it all. Sometimes they're posting because they're trying to access their victim. And I unfortunately did not realize this early into the process. So they knew, like, for example, that their victim was reading Abuse Interrupted. And then they didn't know where the victim was online. Maybe the victim had gone no to contact, but they were trying to access the victim. And I caught on because I was like, this is way too detailed. Like, why is this so? You could broadly discuss these topics without getting this detailed. And I realized, like, oh, they're trying to get to their victim. Yeah, and then there are people who present as victims who are not victims, and they might think they're victims, or they may know they're not victims. They might be both. This does legitimately happen. A good example would be someone who was like a victim of abuse in childhood, and they go forward into their adulthood and they are not safe people. And they justify their abusing others because in their minds, they're a victim. Therefore, they can't be the abuser. And I'm here to say, why not both? It can be both. You can have been harmed and go on to harm others. So anyway, sometimes they're just in there because they are consuming their resources, and unfortunately, because of the way I approach abuse resources, and I'm a little bit more like methodical and analytical about it. I tend to get smart abusers in my subreddit, that's a nightmare. That's Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So they're in they're in the abuse resources. And so many times have I been contacted by a victim saying, "Oh, my abuser was trying to convince me that I was abusive, and they sent me one of your articles. They forwarded me your video." And first of all, I don't care. I don't care. I will take it down. I will not leave up a resource that an abuser is using to try and gaslight a victim. Like, gone, deleted, out. I'm the only person on the internet who's going to tell you not to share these videos. Don't do it. Do not share these with someone thinking that my video is going to get through their Delulu firewall and get them to understand that they are abusive. It's not going to happen. 100%, the only reason they can abuse is because their alloplastic defenses do not allow them to engage with information in a way that would truly be convicting for them. So don't share this video. Please, unless you're sending it to like another victim, which I do get people telling me that, but don't send it to an abuser thinking it's going to explain anything to them. It is not. It is not. You are here because you are internally oriented toward reality. If they hear this information, they're going to use it against you. So, as always, this is why I always emphasize safety, by the way, because at the end of the day, the little slap fight, the litigating, who's the abuser, who's the victim, becomes a tool of abuse over the victim. And the way to cut through that BS for the victim is to say, okay, we agree there's abuse here. And that means that this is unsafe and we should end things. And often at that point, the abuser gets very upset because that's not what they want. They want the continuation of the dynamic that they are benefiting from. So I've been through this process before. I am old enough to remember when therapy concepts started becoming mainstream in popular culture. The books were being discussed. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And so victims of abuse or people in shitty relationships were learning about what it meant to be a healthy partner. And then going, wait a minute. What are you're not doing these things, like what's happening? And so the abusive people, they got into the therapy concepts, they got into the therapy concept spaces, and they started using all of those concepts and weaponizing them against the victim. And that is why I tell you that, when I tell you abusers will use anything, it's because I've seen it. This is not my first, second, third, or fourth rodeo. Yeah, so before therapy concepts, it's like we kind of renegotiate our understanding of the social contract, I don't know, every 20 years or something like that. And so before that, the ways that we were understanding people's places in society, whatever the moral framework is what the abuser, like the most intelligent lawyer on earth, will lawyer against the victim. It doesn't matter what the framework is. Like literally, religious framework, atheist framework, ethical framework, moral framework, literally any framework. That's why, again, I talk so much about this is why we prioritize free will as long as we are not harming another person. Because what preserves free will? And then secondarily, safety, or within the confines of what's safe. But then again, they'll use that. Well, you're not being safe. So you're wrong, you're bad. You should do what I say. But all of this to say, be so careful. Be so careful, guys. They're in abuse resources. They're in victim resources. They're in therapy resources. Whatever the resources are, whatever the places are, they are there. And I have made this mistake because I've been doing the subreddit for 14 years. So before I really honed in on, oh, this is okay, this is what I'm dealing with, I would be interacting with people that I thought were safe people because they were victims, which was two presuppositions I was making that I didn't have a foundation to make. One, that they were a victim, and two, that they were a safe person. So you can be a victim and not a safe person. You can not be a victim, present as a victim, and also not be a safe person. There's permutations. So it's so easy, I've seen, for victims of abuse to bond with other victims of abuse over their shared experiences, their shared trauma. And I've come to understand through observation and direct experience that bonding with people over your shared trauma is not a foundation for a safe, healthy relationship with somebody else. So you get these entire friend groups where everyone's bonding over their shared trauma. That's the foundation of the friend group. And those friend groups tend to be full of drama, and they tend to be very unsafe. And at some point, often abusive toward one or multiple members. So we can't bond with people over trauma. We can't bond with people over we're victims and we're seeking validation. It has to be based on, are we being safe people? Are we being healthy people? Do we respect other people's intrinsic ability to their own free will and autonomy and dignity. Obviously, like I've said before in other videos with caveats for safety, I've got like a weird background of like the paralegal thing, and then like this, like the doing the anti-abuse resources for, you know, a long time. And also I've just been around. I actually grew up in AA. My dad was in AA, and he didn't, you know, you have to go to a lot of meetings. And so he would bring us. We'd be in the back of like the AA while the meetings were going on with like our crayons and our little projects, just being quiet. And even the AA, even the AA, people would be weaponizing the AA at each other. I grew up, I mentioned this in other videos. I did not grow up in a Christian household. I grew up in a New Age metaphysical household. Even the New Age metaphysical households, you would have those concepts weaponized against you. So they will, use their intellectual locus. They will use everything, anything, and everything. Again, I'm the only person on the internet who will tell you not to share these videos. Don't send them to abusers. Do not send them to anybody thinking you will explain anything. Unless it's your friend and you understand legitimately they're a victim of abuse, blah, blah, blah. But like, be so careful. Because as we improve our understanding of the abuse dynamic, and we can really get better at parsing out, okay, this is what's abusive and this is why, they come right behind, and then they'll basically use the available set of facts, misrepresent them to position themselves as the victim and you the abuser. Again, they have alloplastic defenses, the Delulu firewall, that does not allow them to engage with reality in a way that is objectively correct. So, you know, before looking even at safety, we need to be looking at, like, is this person aligned with reality? And it doesn't matter how sad their story is. If they're not aligned with reality, there can't be safety. Anyway, I hope this makes sense, and I'll talk to you next time.